Welcome to Tech Global's tutorial channel. In this tutorial, we are going to cover the differences between map, filter, and reduce methods in JavaScript. These are commonly used array functions. We will see the differences between these three. But first of all, before we dive into the map, filter, and reduce methods, we need to understand the callback functions. Callback function is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. Let's quickly see that. So if you have a function called as like function A takes another argument, which is also a function. So I can call that as a callback, and simply I will first console log function A, and then we'll execute the callback. So later I can create another function that is called as function B, and it just executes console log function B. I created two separate functions, but the function A is taking another function as a callback and executes this within the body. So when it comes to executing function A, so I invoke that, it is asking for another function as an argument. So I will pass my function B here as a callback. Now we invoke our function A and pass function B as a callback. Let's see the result in our console. As you can see, first, it is executing function A, which gives us function A result in the console. Then it invokes the given callback, which is function B. Then we are seeing the result of function B. So simply, this is callback. And what I want you to know here, callback function is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. Now, if you know this, you will understand map, filter, and reduce methods better. So when it comes to map methods, here are a few examples when it can be useful. If you have numbers like 1, 3, 6, and 7, if you want to double all these numbers and return a new array, which is having all the doubled numbers like 2, 6, 12, and 14, that will be a good case to use map, as we are returning the same size array. Let's put it here. It returns a same size array. A second example to mention, again, the numbers. So let's say you have the same numbers and you want to square each of these numbers. So 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, 3 squared is 9, 6 squared is 36, and 7 squared is 49. Another good example of map could be, let's say you have some names or some words. Let's use some strings like full bar and then full bar. So if you want to uppercase all of these strings, this is also a good case for using map. And we will uppercase all of these strings into their uppercase versions. One thing to keep in mind, map always returns a same size array. We will first create a const like numbers. Let's do the first example. I have 1, 3, 6, and 7 as my array elements, and I want to create a new array that will give me 2, 6, 12, and 14. For that, I will use map, as I am getting the same size. So numbers.map. So map is going to take another function here as a callback function, and it will execute this callback function for each of the array elements that we have. So assume that I have a function called as double. Okay, so eventually when I double everything here, I should get 2, 6, 12, 14. So quickly I will create a function called as double, which takes a number and returns that number multiplied by 2. This is what you want. Now I pass this double as an argument to map. Map is going to iterate through each array element that I have here, and it will double them with this callback function. At the end, if I want to see the result, I can store this in another variable called as maybe numbers doubled. And if I console log these doubled numbers, as you can see, here is my result, 2, 6, 12, and 14. So I created a function and I execute that function for each element that I have in the array. And as a result of map function, I got a new array that is storing my new numbers doubled. One thing to keep in mind, map method will not change the original array. If you console log your original array as numbers, you will still get 1, 3, 6, 7, which was your initial array elements. One more step, instead of creating a separate function and passing it as an argument into map, actually I can right away create an anonymous function within the map function. So I will create function right away here. Calling an arrow function could be good. So this function will take one argument. I may call it as number or x or anything, variable name. And then this will return number multiplied by 2. Now I can get rid of this. I don't need it anymore because I created an anonymous function within the map and I'm executing it for each element. Now if I save this, you see my result is still same. I get numbers double as well as original array. Now I will do the second example. Instead of numbers being doubled, we can get each number with their square, number multiplied with itself. Quickly call numbers.map one more time. Again, I can create another function that is called a square, pass it into map, or I can right away get an arrow function here, which will take one number argument and will return number multiplied with itself. So store this in a variable, const numbers squared. And if I console log my numbers squared, I should get my outputs. As you can see now, I get 1, 9, 36, and 49, each number being multiplied with itself. Again, it is same size. The key point here, map always returns a same size array, and it is a new array. The original array does not change. So if we quickly call back our original array, it is still 1, 3, 6, and 7. Let's do our third example, which is a string array this time. I will call const, let's call it words equal this, foo_bar, and my goal is to uppercase each of the elements that I have. Quickly call in our map method, and I can whether create a function, pass it as an argument here, or right away declare a callback within the function. So here, words.map, it is taking one word and returning word dot to uppercase. So now that this map is going to take each element one by one, foo_bar, and then it will convert it to its uppercase version, and it will return this in a new array. So overall, if I want to see my result, I should store this in another array called maybe as words upper. If I console log words upper, then we should get our output as foo_bar and foo_bar. It does not change the original array. If I get just my words here, so we will still get our lowercase foo_bar. That's the map simply. I hope that makes sense. Now let's move into filter. Well, when it comes to filter, by its name, from the array elements, we are going to filter out some elements. Like, for example, if you have some numbers, 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, and 11, from which you want to filter out only even numbers, then you can get like 2, 4, and 6. From all of these numbers, the only even numbers are 2, 4, and 6. The rest are odd numbers, and we are interested only in even numbers. This is a good case to use filter. Or if you have some names like Jane, and then Alex, and then Max, and James, and finally John. From all of these names, let's say you want to filter out the names that starts with J. So in this case, you can get Jane and James and John. So these are the names that starts with J. And also with the same name, if you want to filter out the names that has only 4 letters, then you would get Jane, Alex, and John. So in the first case, we are getting all the names that start with J. In the second one, you're getting names that has 4 characters length. In this case, we will use filters. So these are good examples for filter. Usually about the filter, what you can say to keep in mind, it usually returns a new array with smaller size. So if your original array size is 6, since you are filtering out some elements that is meet in a special condition, being even, for example, then this is a smaller size. Or the names that start with J compared to all the names, that will be a smaller size. And also names that has 4 characters length, that will be also smaller size compared to the original array. So it usually returns a new array with smaller size. If there is no element matching condition, then you will get the 0, so empty array, right? So for example, if all of these were odd array elements, then you would get an empty array for the evens. That's just an example. Let's do the first one, filter, right? So if I have a const numbers that is 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, and 11, these are our numbers from which I want to get only even ones. What I can do, quickly call numbers.filter, and this is going to ask me to pass here a callback function. This callback function can be created separately, passed there, or you can create an anonymous function right away in the filter. First of all, let's create a function called as even, and this even function will take a number and will return if the number is even or not. So I will check if number remainder 2 triple equal 0, that will return true, or else it will return false. You can simplify this with a ternary operator, or actually this is a Boolean condition already, so I can actually just return this. So returns if the number is even or not. Now if I pass even here, I will be able to get all my even numbers stored in a separate array. The next step is just storing the result of the filter function in a new variable called as even numbers maybe. And if I console log my even numbers, you will see the output. So you see we're getting only 2, 4, and 6. Just to remind you that filter does not change the original array, and it returns a new array. So let's quickly console log our original array as well. It will still be 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, 11, but the filtered one is creating a new array. So the next step I will do, instead of creating a separate function and passing it into filter, I can get rid of this and will right away create an anonymous function using arrow functions within the filter. We'll pass my number here and will return if this number is divisible by 2, which is meaning even, right? So if I do this, I'm still getting the same result as 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, 11 as my original array. So this is filter. I hope it makes sense. Now let's do the second example, which can help you understand this better. Now let's create a new array. Const names equal all these names. From these names, I want to filter out the ones that start with J. So it should be Jane, James, and John. Alex and Max should be ignored. So I will quickly do names.filter. This time I will not create a separate function, but right away a callback within the filter, which takes a name and then returns if this name starts with J. Well, so this is our function. We are filtering out all the names starts with J. Alternatively, you could also use name 0 is J. And if you want to ignore cases as well, because one of these might be lowercase g, and you want to include that in your output as well, before you get the first letter, you can do to uppercase 0 equals j. But this will just be more case insensitive. Sometimes this could be useful. The next thing, I should store my new names in a variable called as names j. And finally, if I console log names j, that is all the names starting with J. So you got Jane, James, and John. If one of these starts with lowercase, it will still work as we kind of make it case insensitive. So it still works. Again, it does not change the original array. If I get just names, we will get all the names back, unmodified. Okay? That is second example. We will do one more example. Now, as the third example, I want to get all the names that has 4 characters, like Jane, Alex, and John. In this case, Max and James should be filtered out. We don't want to get those. I would quickly call names.filter and pass in our callback function within the filter. This callback takes one name as an argument, and then it will return if name.length equals 4. It is filtering out all the names that has length 4, and all the rest I should store it in names 4 variable name, maybe. So console log names 4. Now, you see, we're getting only names that has 4 characters. If you would do names that doesn't have 4 characters, you could put not. Now you will get only Max and James because you are filtering out names that doesn't have 4 characters. Max and James is here, but if you take it back to 4, so you get only Jane, Alex, and John. That is all about filter. The next step will be reduce. When it comes to reduce, we need to know that reduce returns a single value out of your array. Again, if you have some numbers like 1, 2, 4, 5, and if you want to return some of these numbers, it will be 12. If you want to return the max from these numbers, let's put a different example. Max number from these numbers are 5. And also, if you have a names array, again, like John, James, Max, and Jane, from this, if you want to get the shortest name, which will be Max, or the longest name, which will be James, so simply you're getting a single value out of your array, whether sum or the max number or the minimum number or shortest or longest name out of your array. In these cases, reduce will be a good function to use. This time I will do a little bit different. I will show, first of all, how you can do this with for of loop. Later, we will see how we can convert this to a reduce function. Simply, if you have an array that is 1, 2, 4, 5, const numbers equals this, and I want to find the sum of numbers in this array. What would you do is you will create a let sum equals start from 0, and then use a loop to iterate through each element, const num of numbers, and for each of these elements, you want to add them to your sum. So sum plus equal num. And eventually, when your loop is done, you could just console log your sum. And as you can see, we're getting 12 right there. This is one way you can solve the question, finding some of the elements in a number array. But now we will convert this to reduce. instead of using for loop. I will just simply comment this out and get it here to use reduce. So I have to do numbers dot reduce. This reduce is going to take a callback function, and there is an optional value also you need to give, initial value, which I highly recommend. So simply this function is going to take two arguments. It can have multiple arguments, but I will use mostly two. The first one considered as your accumulator. The second one is known as current. But for now, I will use this as your sum here. And the second one I will use as num, which is being retrieved from the array one by one. So sum eventually will be your result, and number num here is the numbers that you are getting from array one by one. So what is this initial value? This initial value is what you want to give to your sum variable before you start it out. Just like you did here, sum starts from 0. I can start it from 0. Well, what happens if you do not provide it? It takes the first element to be the sum initially, and the number will be 2. That number will be updated each time to 4 and 5. But I would go with the same route that we did with the for loop. Sum starts from 0, and num is going to be our elements one by one. What I want to do with this, I want to add number to my sum, and after each number, I want to return the new sum. Let's read this one by one. What happens here? Our callback function takes two arguments. Sum starts from 0, and then num is going to be 1, 2, 4, 5, one by one. So initially, when this reduce is iterated for the first time, sum will be 0, but it will be added 1, so it will be 1 and it will be returned. So sum is 1. Then it will be iterated for 2. Our sum will be 3. 1 plus equal 2 will be 3, and so on. Eventually, we will get this as 12. So the next step is just storing this in a container called as sum or result. If you think you will be confused with this, this is just a variable that I pass as an argument into function. This is my overall result. So console log result now. If I run this, I still get 12, as you can see. So whether you go with for loop or reduce, it is pretty cool. Now I want to do the second example here that we see. I want to find the maximum number within the array, which should be 5. Again, if you would do this with a for loop, you would quickly create something called as max. And initially, you can give something like maybe negative infinity, since you know whenever you find a bigger number in the array, you can update it. So now const num of numbers. I will check if the number is more than max. I will say max equals number. What I'm doing here, iterating through each element of the numbers. Whenever is number more than the max, I am reassigning it back to max. So this way I will be able to find the max number in the array. If I quickly show it here, as you can see, we get 5. If I had, instead of this for 11, for example, then our max would be 11. Or here, if I would have 100, now my max would be 100, okay? So this is how it works. As you can see, in all the cases, it works. Now let's take it back. I want to show this with reduce. I will first use numbers.reduce. Then I need to pass a callback here, which takes an accumulator and current. Accumulator will eventually be my result. Current is the current element being retrieved from the array. And then the body of the function, and I can give an initial value. Depending on different situation, I can give initial value being different values. But as we started here, let's call the initial value as negative infinity. And whenever we find something more than negative infinity, we are going to updated it. Okay, so here, accumulator and current, if you want to rename them as max and num, that is also fine. So I will just use if current is more than accumulator, then I am going to return current. Otherwise, I will return still accumulate. So as a result of this, I will be able to find the max value in the array. All I need to do now, store it in a variable called as max number and console log max number. So let's see, we got a 5. And if you will, for example, make this 11, and you got 11, or if you make this 20, you got 20. You see it works with any case. Just the initial value. If you don't put initial value, this will still work out very well. The only thing now, your accumulator starts with the default 11. This can cause you some issues if your array is empty, because now you may get an error, type error, reduce of empty array with no initial value, not recommended. So that's why at least if you give negative infinity, your output will come as negative infinity. Still not the best practice, but depending on the requirement, you know if array is empty, what you should return or throw an error. That will be given to you in the requirement, and you can handle it well once you're given. So I will take it all the way back to our original array, 1, 2, 4, 5. And if I execute, it is still 5. We will do our last example, which is from some names. We want to find the name that has the shortest length. I will quickly create some names array. From the names array, our goal is to find the shortest name, which is max. Now, I will create a variable to decide my initial value. Let shortest name, let's say, that is equal name 0 to be the shortest name. Initially, I am saying John is the shortest. I don't know. I can give any name out of here. But later, I will update this with a loop const name of names. I will check if the current name dot length is less than shortest name dot length, then I will update this. So the shortest name will be the new. So this is how I can find the shortest name. It will check each of these names. Eventually, we will get the shortest one stored in the shortest name. So let's print this out. As you can see, we get max. If this was not John, but Joe, then it will come as Joe. Okay, so let's take it back, John, and we still get max. Now, instead of using loop logic, we will do this with reduce. Quickly call name.reduce. This will take a callback. And as the initial value right there, I will give the name 0. I am assuming name 0 is the shortest one that I will give here. Or instead of shortest, I can still call it accumulator and current. Name 0 is the result at the moment, accumulator. Current is James, Max, and Jane each time. We will check if our accumulator.length is less than current.length, then I will return our accumulator, as the length of accumulator is less than the current. But otherwise, I will return current, which should now give us current, as the length of current will be shorter. As a result, I should store this in a variable, const shortest, maybe this time, and then console log the shortest. Let's see if we are getting max. As you can see, our output is max. And if you again update one of your name, instead of John, if you make it Joe, now Joe is the shortest name, and we are getting it as output. I hope this was helpful and you get a clear understanding and differences between map, filter, and reduce functions in JavaScript. Thank you for watching.